Now at 7:20, Chris Stewart reports on the continuing survival of traditional seaside entertainment in The Empires Strike Back.
I do a gag in the #1 show. It's a little bit naughty, so I don't. It's about my brother and his 3 pals. And they go to Blackpool and they sunbathe all week, and they get beautiful and brown all over, all except for where the swimming trunks are. And one of them said, "I wish there was a nudist beach here. So I'd like to be the same colour all over just once in my lifetime." And his other pal says, "Well, I've got an idea. We'll go down on those sand hills early on Friday morning. When it's quiet, we'll dig 4 trenches. We'll buy 4 masts. We'll line the trenches. We'll cover our bodies all over in sand. And we'll leave out what needs sunburning to the match the rest of our bodies."
It's 7:45 on a summer's evening, and I'm at the seaside in Scarborough. I've been watching the sun set and reflecting that 50 or even 30 years ago at this time of night, the velvet curtains would have been going up in theatres, on piers and promenades all round the British coast. Those were the days, of course, when every resort had 3 or 4 theatres and every self-respecting town its own variety hall. When Britain, even if it was fast losing its empire, still had its empires. On such a night as this did Mr. Tommy Trafford, a comedian, and Mr. Ronnie Parnell, a song and dance man, first meet.
I met Ronnie at Bolton Grand, I think it was.
It was. Which variety?
Yeah. And you came over from Manchester to see the variety. At the same time, to have a word with Jimmy Cliddle about hiring his caravan for the 1957 season.
That's quite correct. In Cleveland.
In Cleveland.
But look up here on the Scarborough Prom, that conspicuously grand building, the one that's lit up. People have been crowding in there for the past half hour or so, and now a smartly dressed gent is propping a board outside with the words, "House Full." If I hurry up the steps, I'll be in time to slip into the last empty seat in the stalls.
My lord, ladies and gentlemen, good evening!
Good evening.
Lovely and welcome to the Spa Theatre, this magnificent edifice dedicated to the bestial art of Francis Patriot.
Old-time music hall, says the programme cover, presented by Trafford Parnell Productions, established 1973. Established, says Ronnie Parnell, and he should know, almost by accident.
Tom was a comic, and myself, I was doing a double act, song and dance act at that time. And we were with this firm who decided to change policy, and we were virtually, I suppose the word is not sacked, we were, I wouldn't say made redundant. And we said, right, why not have a go on our own?
Or as Mickey Rooney once said to Judy Garland in one of those song and dance or best situations, "Let's do the show right here."
We decided to do it on a journey from Wolverhampton to Blackpool. Where we got the push, yeah. And so on the way back up to Blackpool, we decided we'd have a go. We started with seeing in 2 boots of the cars, and we had £600 between us.
You might think 1973 was a bit late to become variety impresarios. About 30 years too late.
People say variety was dying when I was 14 years of age. They said it was dying then. I should have remembered the business laddie 30 years ago. Well, I was lad, it was bloody marvellous then. That's coming at the wrong time, lad.
Yeah, you'll never make a living, they told us.
We are delighted to have with us tonight a gentleman of mirth and multitudinous merriment. Yes, indeed, the inimitable, the irresistible, the irrepressible, the one and only Mr. Tommy Trafford!
Tommy Trafford isn't one of your cool barstool comics. he dresses up and becomes a character, a balloon-chested washerwoman or a creaky, mothballed Chelsea pensioner.
Well, what a lovely looking lot of people you are. You are a lovely looking lot. There's some lovely looking ladies in here tonight. I mustn't be making appointments with me mind that my body can't keep. I've always been a production comic.
And what does that mean exactly?
Well, it means that I can join in with anybody and do sketches and do quickies, blackouts, and if necessary, go in and do the 5-step as well. I'll tell you something before we go any further. I am fed up to the teeth of this job. I am fed up to the teeth of it. I heard what you said then. She said he hasn't got any, didn't you? Well, that's just where you're wrong, love. They're out there steeping in steroidant they are. That's what happened, is it? It all started as a gag, did that? I was impersonating this woman that was staying with us. And I took my teeth out to show what she looked like, and that's how it all started. I mean, one silly woman came to me and said, "Did you have your teeth out to be a comic?" I said, "No, I didn't have my teeth out to be a comic. It just happened that I hadn't got any when I started to become a comic." Yeah, I went to the doctors for the check-up. I said, "Doctor, I'm getting married again, and I'm 82 and she's 22. He said, "You silly old man, it could be fatal." Well, I said, if she dies, she dies. I said, I'm a bit worried about starting a family. He said, good Ems, at your age, my advice to you is if you want to start a family, you should take in a lodger. So I saw him a few months back. He said, how are you? I said, I'm champion. He said, and how's the wife? I said, she's champion, she's expecting. Oh, he said, I see you took my advice, you took in a lodger. I said, yes. He said, and how's the lodger? I said, she's expecting as well.
It's the way he tells them. He may be short on teeth, but there's something peculiarly lascivious about the Trafford tongue.
Well, I don't know. I seem to have a gift of getting it a long way out and being able to twist it around. I must have a longer tongue than anybody else. I don't know.
When you say what sort of thing?
Well, what a lovely looking lot. A lot of L's in it, you see. I think about the L's. That's why. I do a gag and I have to mention a footballer. So I've chosen Gary Lineker because I can get Lineker out. Now, I could have chosen, well, I'm not well up in football now. I used to be in the days of Stanley Matthews and Stan Mortison, but I don't know. Well, yeah, he was the other good football. He was at Manchester United for a long time.
Bobby Charlton?
The Irish lad.
George Best?
George Best. Well, George Best wouldn't be funny, but Gary Lineker is funny.
Also appearing on the bill at Scarborough is a man who first broadcast from the Empire Newcastle more than half a century ago, and is still strumming along. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the president of the Ukulele Society of Great Britain, your own, your very own, Mr. Billy Uke Scott.
This is my second season for Tommy and Ronnie, which I thoroughly enjoyed. This is the nearest thing to the summer shows I used to be in when I first started. These are virtually a reproduction of those shows, which of course I absolutely love. It's a feeling as if I'd started, done a whole career, and finished at exactly the same atmosphere.
Certainly it's the same atmosphere. Messrs. Trafford and Parnell believe in sticking with the old tried and tested routines.
Music that is melodious and that you can tell what people are singing about.
Nice costume.
That's music. Nice costume.
Good scenery.
Good
Something
scenery.
to look at. That's what the theatre was built for.
You are all probably wondering why I am dressed like this. I am wondering why I am dressed like this.
Now, in modern theatre, there's a virtue in sparseness. Minimalist costume, white light, bare sets, bit of stainless steel. Such designer bleakness, it has to be said, has not found its way into Trafford Parnell thinking. Keith Hopkins has been with them from the beginning, and you can hardly get into our worthy chairman's dressing room, what with the piles of costume, the hats, the shoes, the telegrams, the cards, the coffee cups, all overlaid with the rich miasma of grease paint.
Well, we all use pancakes in this day and age, so we try them out with the grease paint's gone out. But we still have the grease paint for doing the shading and the lines.
And then the other bits and pieces, a whole row of costumes there.
Yes, you've got to get them more in. In the music hall, I have at least 10 to 100 costumes. And that's completely down to nothing and back on again in a matter of seconds. For instance, I go from a hold-down costume into complete chaos. That's the front, the shirt underneath, the cummerbund, the whole work. And all I go on, and I say one word, virtually, and then I come off. But I think it's important for the chairman to be there in full regalia.
Now, gentlemen, get ready with those wolf whistles as we present not one, not two, but 6 delectable damsels, all eager to display their charms. And flash those dazzling eyes!
Flashing eyes aside, the girls' regalia leaves little to the imagination.
They do the feather work and the seaside shows. I enjoy doing feather work.
But I don't know what it is.
It's parading around, really, with feathers on. Backpacks, they call them. They fit into your G-string, and then they can tower up to 3 foot above you. Easy.
What do you do once you've got your feathers tucked in your G-string?
Fidget with them, really, to make sure they're straight and they're not wobbly. But,
And then you dance?
yeah.
When you're up there on stage and when the lights are on, you've got the glitzy costumes and all the false eyelashes on, the makeup, you feel like $1 million. And yet when you look behind the scenes at some of the things that we have to do, you know, the quick changes and the grovelling on the floor for hats and things, that's the glamorous bit.
Some choreographers look for the slimmer girls, and some choreographers like the ones with a bit of meat on them. It all depends on what the job is, really.
Which group would you say you found?
A bit of meat on them. I only need to look at a donut and I put £3 on.
And it's nearly time for an interval chalk ice in the foyer. Doesn't time fly when you're having fun? But there has to be one final ingredient to add that essential spice to the variety programme.
Spesh.
Spesh?
Yes, that's right. Speciality anchor.
First question.
Correct.
Name 5 things which contain milk.
4 cows and a rice pudding.
What happened when George Washington cut down the only tree in the garden?
The dog bit him.
Who's Googie Withers?
Everybody's in the cold weather.
Question. What strange fancy persuaded John Boucher there might be a future in talking to dolls?
Maths was my worst subject at school, and I sat next to a chap who was very good at maths. And I used to look at the blackboard and ask him the answers without moving my lips. And my teacher sort of caught on to this one day. He crept up behind me, Mr. O'Connor, grabbed my ear and said, "Boucher, practice your ventriloquism somewhere else, not in my classroom." And I thought, oh, perhaps I've got an aptitude for this. And bought a little dummy with a string out the back of its neck, a little sort of plastic. Well, it wasn't plastic, it was China in those days. And I started doing it from there. Excuse me.
Throat needs clearing.
Needs cutting.
It wasn't very polite.
No, but it was sincere.
You can't buy them off the shelf anymore because, once again, in those days, there used to be virtually a ventriloquist on every bill. There were hundreds of bills around. Now they're very few. There are only about, I reckon there's about 24 of us in the world doing adult entertainment, ventriloquists. And so they have to be specially made.
That's how we started.
We did?
Yeah, and we made money. Now we lost an awful lot. Whatever we made, we lost.
You ploughed it back?
Yeah, we ploughed it back, but we took risks, and we lost a lot of money. And we'd nearly to start again, virtually. And I think that we'll never be rich men because we plough everything back into the business.
And the business has correspondingly grown. One show doesn't make a summer season for Trafford Parnell these days. If it's Friday, this must be music hall. But on other nights, the Starlight dancers high kick to different tunes. What's more, even now, 20 miles up the coast, there's a second Trafford Parnell company hoofing it in Whitby. 6 more dancers, 2 more singers, 1 spesh and 1 comic, the ebullient Tony Pears, but a rather smaller audience.
Where are you from here? Sorry? Oh, Derby. Oh, very nice. You a Derby County supporter? Oh, good, you're the fella. Right, now. I'd rather entertain 24 that want to be entertained than 2,000 who don't. I mean, I know this will sound silly, but 50 people here can make a lot of noise and create a lot of atmosphere. I think if you have 50 people in a 2,500 three-seater auditorium, then yes, it becomes a little difficult, particularly if they sit them in pockets of 3. One feels like a sniper picking off the audience, you know, with the guys. Anybody else new we haven't seen? Come on, get your hands up. Let's have a look. Yeah, where you from over there? Is the question too hard? Oh, Sussex! Oh, Sussex! Oh, goody, goody. So they send the grass away to be cut. Oh, lovely.
And it isn't just the audience in the firing line.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, down here, our musical director, I am privileged to introduce you to the richest vicar in Christendom. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this man is a vicar, but as you know, vicars only work 1 day a week on a Sunday, so he's got 6 days to play the organ. Now, ladies and gentlemen, up until 3 weeks ago, it was an ordinary common garden chaplain to St. Philbus. But, since then, ladies and gentlemen, oh yes, the bishop has smiled. Oh yes. He miffed the mitre, bent the crook, touched him on the shoulder, and inducted, and nuptialized him as the vicar of Russwarp and Hazelby. Now, he's got his own parish, he's got 2 churches, ladies and gentlemen. On a Sunday, he's backwards and forwards like a fiddler's elbow. He's done 3 services today, 2 Cortinas and a Granada, but he's here tonight, ladies and gentlemen, our musical director, the Reverend David Pratt.
Now, the musician always gets a bad time from the comic, and I bet half the audience takes it for granted that Tony Pears is spinning the traditional line about the organist. An Anglican vicar at the keyboard, a parson in the pit. Pull the other one. But you have a look at the programme. There it is, the Reverend David Prout, vicar of Russup and Hazelby, former chaplain at a girls' convent school. Now this, it seems to me, requires further investigation. But of course I'll accept the Reverend Prout's invitation to tea at the vicarage. Milk, no sugar, please. How very kind.
Tony will say very often, don't listen to this really. And often, I mean, I am the butt of a lot of jokes of comedians. Which is understandable, I suppose. But if I took offence at what was said about the theatrical party, I think I would have upped him off a long time ago.
What about your parishioners?
Well, to date I've had every encouragement from, well, of course it's been sisters, nuns that I've worked with up to now in Whitby, and they have been nothing but supportive in my theatrical ventures. I wouldn't say they've always come to see everything I've taken part in. Some things they have done. But yes, generally, I would suggest that everyone's been very supportive. The odd little criticism, when I say odd, one or two anonymous letters from people who feel that I'm doing the devil's work.
Does that undermine you a bit?
No, because the letters I've received have never been signed, and so I'm afraid I don't take any notice of things like that.
Are there ever specific clashes with your church work? If you're committed to a performance and something happens that requires your pastoral attention, perhaps?
It hasn't happened to date, but I can foresee that it might possibly. For example, last night I had a wedding rehearsal at 6:30. I had a said Eucharist at 7 o'clock, and the curtain went up at 7:45.
The parson's dilemma.
So it was quite a rush, but without any disrespect, I got through the Eucharist and was in town with about 5 minutes to spare before the curtain.
Do you ever, in either professional mode, find yourself coming out with a line that really would have been more appropriate in the other one? I mean, do you forget where you are, ever?
Yes, I tend to refer to the people in church as the audience and the people in the theatre as the congregation. That often happens. I did a marvellous wedding earlier this year of a couple who worked for Trafford Parnell, and we geared the whole thing really around a theatrical performance.
I met my husband in show business. We were doing panto together, and we got to know each other in Red Riding Hood. And 12 months later, we did Aladdin, and we got engaged. And 12 months later, we decided to get married in Robinson Crusoe.
Inevitably, there's speculation about a forthcoming production of Babes in the Wood. But you can't just rub a magic lamp and conjure up costumes and scenery. Trafford Parnell's storage requirements have progressed beyond 2-car boots. On a visit to company headquarters, I was given a guided tour of a former Victorian Sunday school, barely a toffee apple's throw from the Big Dipper in downtown Blackpool.
That little part up there, on the left-hand side, are all juvenile pantomime costumes that the little kiddies have. These are all pantomime hats here. I reckon we must have in between 3,000 to 3,500 costumes altogether. But
all the props behind us here now. It's all the Cinderella props and the frying pans, the ice buckets, electric irons, gold blocks for Jack and the Beanstalk, telephone, shopping baskets, yellow ducks, fish, sausages.
4 golden eggs of various sizes up there.
We even got the marvellous giant's boots for Jack and the Beanstalk. I fancy wearing one of those. It's like Aladdin's cave.
Or Red Riding Hood's forest. We squeeze down dim pathways between rustling racks of costumes.
And there's 4 key stairs here. So the bit we're going into now, where we keep all the materials. There's not such a lot here now, but
That's the pink that we've been looking for, Keith.
we have, oh yeah, good. We have all boxes like with all the pink materials and russets and reds and net up above here, and you can see like all the, some principal girl costumes and mainly fairy costumes.
Who makes all these? Where do you get them done and made up?
Well, we have 2 wardrobe mistresses, and then Keith designs a lot of them and tats them up afterwards.
But what does that involve? What sort of
sequining and
Well, sequining and beading and
feathers.
feathering. We call it zhush, you think. Zhush, to go around all these cloaks.
These are the glamour hats that they wore in London now. I don't know if you can get one out.
They are quite enormous. Again, this was a Ziegfeld Follies scene. And these are literally enormous, big feather hats with beads and, oh dear, they're all caught up. But you can imagine supporting that on your head. It takes quite a bit of doing.
Does that tend to be the most expensive item, the dressing the girls, the dancing girls?
Yes,
Yeah.
you have to get the shadow it out, yeah.
Mm.
When you get to the diamante and somewhere. The less you put on them, the more expensive the costume is.
As the empire has grown, Tom and Ron's roles have necessarily blossomed beyond gags and soft shoe shuffles.
To use Ronnie's words, I play at post offices, which is I do all the office work, the VAT, the national insurance, the negotiating of contracts. I'm the one who, when anybody said we want £600 a week, I say, well, you're not having it. And Ronnie is the other side. He plans the shows, does the production, and the scenery.
Basically, we both have the same ideas of what a production should be.
Yeah, I think I'm a bit more, I don't know what word to use there, but I'm a bit more adventurous than you are where the modern stuff's concerned. Not that I like it personally, but I can see sometimes, yeah, we've got to.
Yes,
Yeah,
but only up to a point.
Yeah, only up to a point.
Yes,
Oh,
there's
yeah.
no way you go over the
No,
top.
no.
And
No.
everything looked like a display of St. Vitus.
No, no. But we've got a very good friend in this business. We've known her for years and years and years, and she'll say to people, have you seen Tommy and Ronnie? Are they all right? They say, oh, they're arguing like mad. You know, they're all right then. If we weren't arguing, we wouldn't be all right.
You do argue a bit, do you?
Oh, yes, indeed. I think all partners do that.
What do you argue about?
Well, mainly over he gets carried away, and he wants people, like an Anna Neagle and a Ginger Rogers, both roll into one for tuppence, and they're not there, aren't those kind of people. And they say, we'll have to pay this. I said, well, there's the money on it, and I have to keep very firm.
It's the budget every time.
When I say we argue, they're not serious arguments.
Oh, no.
More discussions than arguments.
Yeah.
This is Ronnie's department, isn't it?
The scenery?
Yeah, the scenery.
Now, here, there are, I believe there are 3 plays. If you just go around that corner slightly, you'll see what I mean, I think. If you just pick your head round there, you can see how many are actually stacked.
And which plays are there?
Plays there, those French without dressing, bell bottoms are bust, and believe it or not, one yank and they're off.
One yank and they're off. Bell bottoms or bust, I know what you're thinking. These plays are outside the confines of the standard repertoire.
Yeah, Ronnie writes those. My partner.
Why write them yourselves? Why not sort of do a play that's already been written?
We have tried to get them, but you try to get a play where it involves 6 dancers and about 5 acts.
We involve every single person in the show, so you've got a 14-handed play, which is quite something. People don't see 14-handed plays other than the National Theatre.
I've written 4, and the last one I wrote has had 2 titles actually, because juggle the titles. It was, we called it You'll Get It Upstairs.
We're doing fun on the 3rd floor.
Which has had other names in its time.
Yes, it originally was called You'll Get It Upstairs, but the powers that be thought it was not quite like the Mr. Scarborough, so it was called Fun on the 3rd Floor.
Why, what does that say about Scarborough audiences, do you think?
Oh dear.
In Llandudno, however, you'll get French Without Dressing, where the playwright himself has been appearing in a revival of his first oeuvre. Come with me now to the Arcadia Theatre, which has become
a small hotel in Paris, owned by a fellow called Monsieur Dupre and his girlfriend, Gabrielle.
Add her precious statue of the Venus de Milo and a bemused Lancashire tourist, and read on.
Say, if the lads back home hear about this, I shall be drummed out the masons.
I do sometimes have trouble with the women.
Oh, really? Well, that's some consolation. What's up?
Oh, it's Gabrielle. She's worried about her bus.
Oh.
She says it's gone all dull and it needs polishing.
Well, she wants to try that Bristol cream.
There's no nudity, there's no filth, there's no much. There's the saucy bits, there's a lot of stocking suspenders, trousers falling off, beds collapsing. It's that type of seaside fun.
It's picture postcard humour, isn't it? Little toothless men, bossy bosomy women, slap and tickle, but no politics, nothing too blue, and nothing upsetting. In other words, no sex, and nobody drowned.
Very old-fashioned. Very old-fashioned. But it's so old-fashioned that it's coming back again. I mean, the little kids in this audience, they howl when I do a thing with my tongue. Whereas, 15 years ago, no, I think they were a bit blasé, you know. I know that the trend is alternative comedy, but if you're a funny man, a funny character, you'll always get laughs.
Valencia, stick your head between your knees and whistle up the Barcelona.
When I started in the business, I toured with the Jimmy Clitheroe show. I'd come off thinking, oh, I've done well tonight. And Jimmy would say to me, that last gag, he wouldn't say I'd done well, that last gag that you've done, if you'd have waited 3 seconds, you'd have had a double tag and you would have got a double laugh. Instead, you only got one big one. You would have got a small one and then a woof. Try it that way tomorrow night.
That's not a Spanish song. It is. I learnt it in Torremolinos when I was there.
You've been to Spain before, then?
Oh, yes, I've travelled very extensively.
Oh, tell me, where have you been?
I've been to St. Jose and St. Juan.
No. You don't pronounce the J.
Oh, yes.
No, the J is silent.
Get away. You learn so much every day, don't you?
Oh, you do. It's San Jose and San Juan.
Oh.
Tell me, when did you go?
Last June and July.
If you go and watch a comedian like Tommy Trafford work, you'll never see that again. You'll never see a man do what he does, because there's nowhere that anybody will be able to train, to learn to do that. He is a kind of living art form. It's like Marcel Marceau. He's a mime artist. This man is what we call a production comic. And you'll never see one of those again. You know, you talk about Beamish and you talk about things like the Wigan Pier development. It's all heritage. Well, part of this country's heritage is the variety theatre.
And doing perhaps a little more than England expects to maintain that tradition has been the Reverend David Prout, who at last year's Christmas pantomime found himself unexpectedly elevated out of the pit. Will you do it again? Will you wear skirts and be a pantomime dame again? And enjoyed it? Oh, no, they didn't.
As soon as we finish here, we start getting 3 pantomimes ready. I mean, we're now in negotiation for summer seasons next year. But we're employing over 50 people this summer, keeping 50 professionals in work.
Not bad, considering all Tommy Trafford and Ronnie Parnell set out to do back in 1973 was find themselves a few bookings. But time has moved on. Neither of them was a youngster even then. And on every show, eventually, the final curtain must fall.
Our next artist has given up show business for a job where he knows he will get a regular wage.
I never will.
No, Ronnie will never retire. But I want to take it a bit easier.
You're talking about performing?
Yeah, before I was old. I've got to the stage where I like to sleep in my own bed.
So that doesn't worry me at all. I don't mind.
A few years ago, I would have said, well, we'll keep going until we won't give it up, it'll give us up, because there was a lean period for our type of show. But I can see it coming back so much. The youngsters, the teenagers that have been in this year, they clapped along and they sang along, and they loved every minute of it.
We'll meet again.
I've left it all my life. I couldn't have done anything else. If I was at a bank, a teller in a bank, I'd have died years ago. To me, that would have been, bars would have been a jail. This is the greatest profession in the world. I could never have done anything else but this.
Till the blue sky. Peter Lynn, it was her agent that started the war.
And will you please...
A little old lady came over to me and she said, "I've thoroughly enjoyed your singing." And she pressed into my hand a 50p piece and said, "Get yourself something with that."
At the end of the play last night, I had a tear in my eye standing on stage with the company lineup, taking the call. And I honestly had a tear in my eye because they would not let our comic, Les Wilson, do the finale speech. So he just went on and on and on.
On behalf of the Royal Shakespeare Company.
One night here in particular, we got half the audience standing up singing Land of Hope and Glory and waving their arms around with them, which was quite moving actually. Here Carmen had to rush off and get a tissue.
There are people standing now, but not to wave. They're scurrying prematurely to the exit. Now, I don't want you to think they didn't like the show.
Land of hope and glory, mother of the free.
This flurry of silver-haired lemmings wants to go up a cliff to the hotels on top, preferably in a lift.
A lot of them aren't capable of walking up the cliff, the elderly people.
Yes, but when you say cliff, you must make it clear it's not like a climbers cliff. It is a steep hill, in other words.
Yes, yeah, but they call it South Cliff.
Yeah.
And this cliff lift, the last one up goes at 10:25, and the elderly people start panicking about 10:05. We're not going to get to that cliff lift. And if we don't get that 10:25 cliff lift, we shall miss our cup of tea and our Mary biscuit. So they get up and go, because they won't miss the cups of tea and Mary biscuits, and they won't walk up the cliff.
As the crowds cluster round the last cliff lift, the darkness has long since settled over Scarborough, and over the real glory days of music hall and variety too, come to that. But it's reassuring, isn't it, to find here, and in Whitby and in Llandudno, a few brave outposts of a small empire upon which the sun has not yet quite set.
This is what they did. So they laid there waiting for the sun. Instead of the sun, a couple of spinsters came for a walk on those sand hills. And one turned to her pal. She says, "Hey, Ada, have you seen that?" Now this, what I'm going to say now, is the lead up to the fact. She says, "I've been looking for one of them for 40 years. Laugh. And here they are, growing wild." The big laugh. You see? That's what I mean by a double tap.
The Empire's Strike Back was presented by Chris Stewart, with thanks to all the Trafford Parnell artistes, including Starlight dancers Adrienne Knight and Debbie McFarlane, musical director Michael Conrad, Kay Carman and Howard Layton. Technical presentation was by Peter Jeffers, and the programme was produced in Wales by Kate Fenton. Does He Take Sugar at 8:45 tonight takes a look at the Orange Badge Users Association, which is trying to ensure that disabled people's views are heard at the Department of Transport when new regulations are under discussion. And continuing the theme of mobility, the programme assesses a collapsible ramp, which will make getting in and out of coaches much easier for many disabled people, plus some practical suggestions for Christmas presents. That's all in Does He Take Sugar, presented by Katie Whittaker, tonight at 8:45. BBC Radio 4, it's 8 o'clock, time for analysis. Chris Veach focuses on the West's economic stake in Eastern Europe.
Few, if any, people in Britain will have remained unmoved by the sight of the nations of Eastern Europe, one by one, regaining their freedom since the summer. Even those who rarely show their emotions wept when the Berlin Wall opened, and all those East Germans, old, young, driving their Trabants on foot, came streaming through. But our fellow Europeans from the eastern side of our continent have been quick to remind us that tears of joy are not enough. They also expect us to help in the rebuilding of their economies. Mr. Lech Walesa has just been to Washington and London, pleading for Western investment in Poland. He accompanied the cajoling with a little emotional blackmail. If you love someone, he said, there's an obligation. Was he preaching to the converted? Certainly, Western governments have publicly committed themselves to helping the reforming countries of Eastern Europe. International institutions like the IMF and the World Bank are involved. So is the European community. But is it all charity? Why are we doing it? What's in it for Britain, for example? William Waldegrave, Minister of State at the Foreign Office.
Britain's interest remains as it has always been since the beginning of an identifiable foreign policy in Britain, namely that we are a nation that lives by trade, we want stability, we want peace, we want open markets, and we want trading partners. We are the classic example of a power that wants an open and liberal world trading and political order. Putting aside sentiment for a moment, the idea that there should be another great section of Europe, part of the free world's economic system, is nothing but good news for us.
Enlightened self-interest lies also behind the Western business community's support for the idea of helping Eastern Europe. This support is particularly strong in West Germany. Otto Wolf von Ammerungen, a big name in West Germany's steel industry, has for many years been chairman of the influential business Ostausschuss, Eastern Committee in Cologne.
We cannot be an observer of ever-growing disparity